Now here we go back to this was actually something good that they did. So the Ultimates, again, this is kind of like with Spider-Man 2099, where it's a completely different universe. This
Is
has
this
nothing.
where Ultimate Spider-Man came from?
Yes.
Okay.
Ultimate everything comes from this universe.
All right.
So this was, you got to let's back up. Well, wait a minute. Let me get caught up on the chat. That's why I never got into comics or anything. No idea where to start. It appears they were doing reboots until they were cool. Never bothered reading Spider-Man comic book published after Spider-Man number 4. Yeah, you know what? Smart. The Scarlet Spider isn't wearing a T-shirt. It's wait for it, white. Oh, God.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that. That's not funny.
That is good. No. That was actually a very good joke. These so-called comic writers are drug-induced, mentally deficient weirdos. Yes, you're exactly right. And
they're doing something.
Thank you very much, Darth Plato, for the $2 super chat. My suggestion: Marvel Avengers Alliance. I'll have to look into that. Okay, I don't know what that is, but I'll check it out. So the Ultimates. Well, again, I do have to back up a little bit. Remember that Marvel Comics has a history going back to before World War II, just like DC does, right? And DC is a collection of, National Comics and Fawcett Comics, and, a bunch of other comic book lines that came together. And then they'd have to integrate these hero characters that they bought from other comic book lines. Originally, Fawcett Comics had Captain Marvel and the Marvel Family and Dr. Savannah and Black Adam and all those kind of guys in a completely separate universe. Their own, because they were a different company in competition with DC and Marvel, and or what would be DC and Marvel. And DC decided to try and sue them and said, yeah, your Captain Marvel's too much like Superman. We're going to sue you. And the way that worked out in court was like, no, just because he's got a cape and he flies and he's strong, that's not enough to infringe on your trademark. They're not the same. And it got thrown out, but it cost Fawcett Comics a lot of money, and they couldn't publish Captain Marvel during that time, their most popular character. So eventually they ended up selling their properties to DC. So DC takes in, Fawcett Comics, and they just said, okay, so this is Earth S. That's where these characters are. And that's where their multiverse started coming from. They had multiple universes, not just, Earth 2 and Earth 1, where it was the old characters and then the rebooted characters and so forth. But there was also this universe that had these characters we got from this company and these characters we got from this company.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, then, Crisis on Infinite Earths comes along, and they try to weave all these characters together, right? So you have a very mismatched, continuity. Well, in a lot of ways, Marvel was the same way, although it wasn't really necessarily different companies. It was just that you'd have the X-Men being written by these guys, and these guys were writing the Avengers, and these characters were separate, and then they'd cross over, but then, and over years and years, the continuity got, and then you'd add in new characters here and there, and they were like,
they wanted a streamlined version, but also to bring in new people, new readers, right? That was
exactly. So this was kind of a reboot universe. It was also a way to streamline the characters, right? Have them not necessarily being tied to World War II, right? And, or at least all of them. And what I came to realize as I was and it's a little bit grittier. It's a little bit more
like
for
a Captain
adult.
America there.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm not mistaken, that's Bruce Banner that he's kicking in the teeth.
Oh, that's funny.
And the Hulk in the Ultimates, when he hulks out for the first time, he's buck ass naked. And they were strategic in how they showed it. But
there's Tony Stark.
And he was a cannibal too, by the way.
That's weird.
He would kill people and eat them, and Yeah, he was a
Yay.
real monster.
He sounds like fun.
Yeah. So I mean, it was the Ultimates literally taking all these characters to the nth degree.
I remember
Thor.
Ultimate Spider-Man. Yeah. Go ahead, Thor. What
Thor
about
was very interesting. His origin, at least in the early comics, I wasn't very.
Thor.
Oh, we'll get to this in a second.
Okay, all right. Go with
But
Thor.
Thor, it wasn't entirely clear. He said that he was, god of thunder from Norse mythology and whatnot, but nobody believed him. They said that he got his power from this hammer that incorporated this alien technology, and he was just a drunken loser who
Really? Because I
delusions
thought
of
he was a mechanic working in a garage, like in Adventures in Babysitting. They should have done that. That should have been
so. So at least in the beginning, it wasn't clear what his origin was. Yeah, you're just some guy named Donald Blake. You're not a god of thunder. Blah blah blah, and this and that. They had, of course, Henry Pym and the Ant-Man and the Giant Man, and of course, there you go, Henry Pym and his what's her name, Van Dyne and whatnot. Very abusive relationship. Yeah, he's literally spraying her with bug killer. He's very this was
what a
very
jerk.
very dysfunctional relationship. Yeah.
Was he snorting snow on the side too in scenes? And he's like,
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't remember the fine details again. But look, what I'm getting at with this and why this was so good. Do you by any chance have in your pictures here? Do you have one of Nick Fury?
No, I just picked ones from the actual comic that was called The Ultimates.
Okay,
so maybe there was a Nick Fury. Is Nick Fury in there?
So when Nick Fury was introduced in The Ultimates, he was a black guy who was bald and had an eye patch, and he looked just like Samuel L. Jackson.
This was before they did
yes, it was.
Okay, so this was sort of a pre-planning.
And
all right,
everybody recognized that it was motherfucking Samuel L. Jackson, right? And the story goes that Sam Jackson is a comic book fan. He read these comics and he saw that, and he got in touch with Marvel Comics and says, that Nick Fury in your comic there looks pretty damn familiar to me. And they're like, don't worry. I ain't gonna sue you or nothing. All I ask is that if you ever turn this into a movie, I get to play Nick Fury. That's the story he tells. Whether or not that's true, I have no idea. But that's the story he tells. And there are a lot of story points that come from this Ultimates storyline that were used in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I believe that this was the prototype for their movie universe. They were planning it out, and this was the prototype.
Okay. Interesting. I do know that they did say they killed characters. I remember the Peter Parker in this universe got killed off to be replaced with Miles Morales, right?
Yes.
And
yes,
that
was
something that happened here. And
which was, again, this was one of those, this is a completely different universe, right? So they kill off Peter Parker, replace him with Miles Morales. This is the Ultimates universe.
Right.
I look at this as no harm, no foul.
Right, because it's another universe.
For Peter Parker continues unabated in the mainline storyline.
Right.
But they purposely spun it like they were killing off Peter Parker out of Marvel Comics and replacing him with a black kid. They did it intentionally
for clout.
To start a hoopla.
Yeah.
Whereas the people that were actually reading these comics are like, this is not a problem. This is not a, and honestly, the way they wrote the story was a good story. It was a good
Okay.
death.
All
It was
right.
a good handoff of the mantle,
All right.
you know? And they did it without having to do, but then they started doing stupid stuff, and they brought Miles Morales into the mainline storyline from
Doesn't make sense.
this
Yeah.
universe. And it makes no sense whatsoever. It's like, you people are just you lost the plot. You guys are idiots.
They always lose the plot. That's the problem, and they've lost the plot in the movies currently right now too. It seems, but
Because Nick Fury is one bad mother. Shut
that's
your mouth.
right. That's
I'm
right.
just talking about Nick Fury.
But this was Ultimates, and I just noticed that this seemed a little edgier than the Marvel comics.
It was very edgy. It was very effed up. It was very, very effed up.
I imagine Tony Stark wasn't changed though. He's probably just the same Tony Stark in both universes.
Yeah, and they did not shy away from the drunkenness. He was a drunk.
He's getting liquored up while he has the suit on, I'm sure too.
Yep.
Just...
Yep.